Thank you. Hi, everybody. Great to see you. Looking forward to following the chat. This is going to be a great session. I'm so grateful for the team at SendPulse for giving me a chance to tell you some of the wonderful, crazy, amazing, sad stories that have happened in my journey into artificial intelligence. And I will start first, hopefully, by being able to share my screen. If I can figure out why I can't see that right now. Hold on one second. And hopefully over the next few moments, I will be sharing with you just a little bit about my journey. So for those of you who don't know me, I want to invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn. You may not right this second be like, I don't know why I want to be friends with her. But by the end, you might be like, oh my gosh, I can't wait. So definitely, I invite you to be part of my network. My network is your network. And really, that's what a lot of these events are all about. Now, one of the things that I focus on is I really am very passionate about making the world a better place. Now, I know that sounds probably pretty trite, but the reason for that is that about 10 years ago, actually, I'll even go a little bit further back. 19 years ago, I became a mom for the very first time. I now have 6 children, but I became a mom for the first time. And in becoming a mom, I had an opportunity, I basically, I loved being pregnant. I've done it many times since. So it was a good experience for me. But after I had my child, about 3 days later, I found out, oh, hi, can you hear me?
Just a second before you tell your amazing story, because I'm here. I want to learn and know everything.
Of course.
Because 6 kids, it means you're a strong woman and you're amazing. So I'm excited to hear. But I'm here to help you out with the presentation so you can add it, and we don't have any technical issues.
Of course, Bianca, sure. Can you see it, Bianca?
Yes,
okay,
I can.
Just check. Okay, everyone, let's do this. We're a little bit behind schedule, but I think I always like to start the conversation as opposed to me having to explain me. I'm going to give you a taste. Many of you may know this. Actually, if you are familiar with this tool, you could drop it right into the chat. Hey Jen is an interesting utility, but before I get too far, I want to share with you this video. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it okay, but just adjust the audio on your side if it comes in too soft or too loud. Here we go. Let's take a look.
I am nearly Noelle, a synthesized avatar, here to help with the introduction. Get ready to meet the incredible Noelle Russell. She's not your ordinary technologist. She's a game changer. With her entrepreneurial spirit and expertise in conversational AI, generative AI, and language models, Noelle has revolutionized the tech industry. But here's the best part. Noelle is so much more than her professional achievements. She's a true inspiration for balancing work and family life. As a wife and mother of 6, she embodies the definition of courage and determination. Get ready to be blown away by Noelle's spectacular journey. Join me in welcoming the phenomenal Noelle Russell.
The crowd goes wild. One of the most interesting things about that video is that it is part of a company, HeyGen. I see some of you know it. The HeyGen tool allows you to create what's called an instant avatar. And that's what I did. I spent 2 minutes right in front of my screen. One thing I love about their onboarding is that they say, just talk about something you care about for about 2 minutes. And when you and everyone has a topic that they can talk without preparing, or creating notes. You just talk about something that's close to their heart. Maybe it's their family, maybe it's a hobby, maybe it's their profession. So you just talk for 2 minutes and then you get this instant avatar. Now, of course, once you get the instant avatar, the avatar doesn't know what to say. So you have to give it a script. In my case, you could probably tell I had GPT create that script for me. And I did use what are called custom instructions in GPT to do that. But it wasn't terrible. It was one shot, though. I did not edit it. I didn't do anything. It took me all of about 15 minutes to do. And it's kind of interesting. It does give us a sense of how the world is changing. About, 8 years ago, so maybe 7 years or so ago, I was working in media, and in media, I was very worried at that time. I was working for a company called National Public Radio, NPR. Some of you might know it. And in doing that work, I realized that there were we were worried about misinformation. We're actually worried about it again with this new election year in the United States. But we were worried about misinformation, worried about malinformation, worried about, integrity of truth and content. And so we started looking at labs in the world that could create really believable deep fakes. And there were only about 6 labs in the whole world that could do that work. So we had it, in my mind, contained. Well, now today, for free, anyone can go to HeyGen and build a instant avatar for free. That's relatively good. So the world is changing, and that means that in addition to us being excited and enthusiastic about this journey that we are on in the world of AI, it probably would be a good idea for us to take a moment to temper that enthusiasm with a bit of wisdom. And so over the last year or so, I've done a world tour talking to some of the largest brands in the world. And I uncovered a couple of patterns, and those are the patterns I'm going to share with you. But before I do that, here is the QR code for connecting with me on LinkedIn. You, of course, can just Google me, Noelle Russell. You can add AI if you want to, but I should come right up. You can connect with me directly. I do encourage you to connect with me instead of just following, though that's what it'll invite you to do most easily. But if you hit the 3 dots and go to connect, that way we can message each other. If you have questions that don't get answered here, you'll have a chance to send those along. So today I do want to focus on those questions. But before I do, I always like to share with you what maybe I've done to get into this space. And I got into technology, as I started to say earlier, about 20 years ago. My firstborn son, he's there in the middle. His name's Max. He was born with a condition known as Down syndrome. And at the time, I remember the guy coming in and being like, this is the situation. And I guess he must have noticed the look on my face, because he was like, don't worry, because I was, you're in shock when you get this kind of news. And I remember him saying, don't worry, there's institutions for kids like this. There are homes that adopt babies that have this condition. This doesn't have to be your first experience as a mom. And I remember 2 things went through my head. Number one, I'm a Latina, and I don't really give up on things. I don't walk away from things, certainly not my family. But the second thing that went through my head was technology. Like, at this point, I was a technologist. I had spent the last 10 years helping us during, I don't know if you remember the first time the world was going to end. This time it was called Y2K. And so I became a technologist during the world of Y2K, where we were working very similar to what we do now, working long hours, trying to fix and repair and connect systems that had previously never been connected. It was an extremely exciting time. It's actually very similar to the way I feel about the world today with data and AI. But back then, so now I'm like, I'm 10 years into my career. I'm a technologist, feeling pretty good. I have a son who has special needs. And I'm like, well, I want to build a world that's better for him. So if you go to my LinkedIn, you'll see I handcrafted my career to work for companies that cared about the same thing. And I think that's probably the number one thing I encourage companies and leaders to think about is, what do you care about? What are your core values? Because when you're working in AI is ultimately an experiment. Sometimes it goes well. Most of the time it fails. Hopefully, before you've productized it or pushed it into production. But it's a bit of a journey that you go on when you're starting to build these models. And so my son there, Max, he inspired me so now I was willing to do a lot of things that were hard in order to get a world to be more accessible, to have technology that was considering people who didn't speak clearly, or people who didn't understand things in a very technical sense. I wanted the world to be more accessible. And so that's the journey I went on. That led me actually to Amazon Alexa. And I ended up being at Amazon as a principal cloud architect. And I remember the day I got an email from Jeff Bezos, right into my inbox. Some of us have had this experience where we get an email from our CEO, and then we know, like, okay, it wasn't to me, right? It wasn't like, hey, Jeff said to Noelle, right? It was more like he sent a letter to the whole company. But when I read it, I literally was like, this is my moment. And he was inviting us to join a new team called the Amazon Alexa team. And I was employee 10 on the skills team to help build services and skills for Amazon Alexa. And I jumped all in because I just knew based on my core values that this was something that would unlock accessibility for at least the people that I cared about. So I do have 6 kids, as it was mentioned. I always like to show them here as well. I also host a couple of podcasts. So if you're interested in podcasts or like to listen, I have Good Morning AI, where I talk all about AI. I actually do it with my husband, and he often will come. He's not an AI person, so he brings me down from some of the very deep technical talks that I have into the real world of how do we use this? And that is where the world of sales, marketing, lead capture, sales closing, like all of these things that I do every single day. How do I use AI to do more of that better with more efficiency, amplifying what I want to give to the world to much greater degrees than I could do by myself, or I could even do with a team that I can hire. So that is kind of where I started. Now, of course, it's been a good ride. I've gotten lots of awards. Thank you, Bianca, for mentioning I am an MVP for Microsoft in the world of AI. And what that means is that my contributions, and really those contributions have often been me raising my hand and being like, have we thought about things differently? And some of you might resonate with that. You might be that one who has that thought like, are we sure we should do this? Or have we thought about people? Like in my case, I was always the one in the room that would say, have we thought about kids with special needs? Have we thought about my dad ended up getting hit by a car and suffering a traumatic brain injury after I joined Alexa. And so he no longer could remember. He had no short-term memory. So I leveraged Alexa intensely. And I would always say in the rooms that I was in, have we thought about people who have memory issues? Have we thought about nursing homes? Have we thought about hospitals and doctors? Fun fact, when we started building Amazon Alexa, we weren't thinking about those things at all. We were thinking about affluent people who wanted to buy a device that they could talk to in their kitchen. Another fun fact, we didn't even imagine anyone would ever buy more than one. That in their house, we imagined you'd only get one. It would be in your kitchen, and you would ask it simple things like how to play music, or how to measure, how do I take 4 ounces and turn it into tablespoons? Like those were the types of use cases we were prioritizing. Little did we know that within years we would be in 100 million households. Little did we know that kids would use it in speech pathology inside classrooms, that kids would use it to build, to answer questions, to do their homework, very similar to what we hear education struggling with in the world of ChatGPT. So my world has, I've been doing this now for about 10 years specifically. That project launched a while back. And I left Amazon after 4 years and 4 language models. I left Amazon to start a new thing. And it was all about making AI accessible to everyone. And that accessibility means that in every go-to-market strategy you build, in every marketing effort you have, it's really a little bit of a mind shift because you're not building for a single persona, right? We were at first, but in building for that single persona, we shrunk the funnel instead of growing it. We reduced our capabilities instead of expanding them. And so we ultimately, if you know a little bit about Alexa, they eventually did create a category for older people. They did create a category for schools and education. They ended up creating that, but they missed out on those early days because we didn't prioritize that. I did. All my skills ended up being for those communities, but I was an anomaly. And this is what I think is exciting about the world we are in right now. The ideas that you have that you might consider, if you're in a room, you might consider it to be an anomaly. It might be different than how everyone is speaking. It might be different than what other people are saying and thinking. Those ideas are what will enrich your AI experiences, your AI solutions. And we need those people. We need people who have these diverse ideas now more than ever, because when we launch an AI service, we're never sure who's going to use it. As a matter of fact, my role at Microsoft, when I launched that, I was part of a team called Azure Cognitive Services. It's now called Azure AI Services. It, of course, eventually now includes OpenAI. I was an early member of the beta team testing out GitHub Copilot, which was the predecessor to ChatGPT. And in doing those tests, I remember thinking to myself, what are we amplifying here? Like, are we taking a bunch of data and work that people did 20 years ago and using that to train a model? Because I don't want to think like 20 years ago. I want to think now. I want to amplify my ideas today. And so I was part of the voice that helped change the way that that product came to market. And you are likely exactly that type of person. If you're watching this, you are drawn to like, how do I help innovate? How do I help innovate on behalf of my customers, of my partners, of my company? Now, this is a video I want to share with you that actually came out the day I started at Microsoft. And the reason it came out that day was because I was launching a new campaign. And as part of that campaign, it was about how do we make AI accessible for everyone. So I want to share this video with you, and then I'll tell you why it's so important to me.
Today, right now, you have more power at your fingertips than entire generations that came before you. Think about that. That's what technology really is. It's possibility, it's adaptability, it's capability. But in the end, it's only a tool. What's a hammer without a person who swings it? It's not about what technology can do, it's about what you can do with it. You're the voice, and it's the microphone. When you're the artist, it's the paintbrush. We are living in the future we always dreamed of. We have mixed reality that changes how we see the world, and AI empowering us to change the world we see. You have more power at your fingertips than entire generations that came before you. So here's the question: what will you do with it?
Every time I see that video, I'm always like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Let's go build something. What you'll notice about that video is it was a little bit about the tech, but it was way more about the domain expertise, the vertical expertise, your expertise in the processes in a business, sales, marketing, IT, DevOps, like whatever your role is in the company. How do we use AI to do more, better, faster, amplify you as an individual and therefore you as a company? Jeff Bezos taught me, as when I worked there, he would often teach about these leadership principles that we had at Amazon. And he would say, what we want to do is give everyone a chance. We want to make it a great equalizer, right? Use technology to equalize everyone so everyone gets better. Not just those who are really great at sales get to continue to be great at sales, but how do we make people that maybe are less good at sales get great? Because here's what happens when people start winning, they get motivated, they get excited, and AI can help you augment existing workflows to make them more enjoyable, to make them higher human value. And I think that's really what we're starting to see across organizations. Now, last year, I was part of over 100 projects in generative AI. As you know, last year was the year of use cases. How do I take a use case and build it out? As a result of a lot of these conversations, I got 3 questions that I've distilled out of all of those conversations. And it was the same 3 questions every single time. The first question that I was asked was, how do I not hurt myself? The way I phrased it on the screen sounds a little nicer, right? How do I use AI to be helpful instead of harmful? Of course, yes, we should do that. But most of the time, when I'm talking to an executive of a Fortune 100 company, they are instead saying, how do I not hurt my brand? How do I not lose money? How do I not, hurt a client or a customer in a way that they sue me? Like, how do I protect myself? That protection, though, does yield building safer, responsible implementations for everyone. But it often starts a bit selfish. Like, how do I make sure our enthusiasm doesn't end up, hurting ourselves as we excitedly launch things into production without fully thinking about it? The answer to this is a little complicated, but it starts very simply. It starts with building a responsible, what I call a playground, right? An internal, innovative playground. Now I say, you start at the playground, but your idea is to go from playground to production. But the only way to go from playground to production is to start with a playground. So build that inside your company, inside your firewall, not in the open, not in the wild, but inside your 4 walls. You can create these safe little innovative playgrounds, hubs where people inside the company can play around. I always tell companies, whatever your company name is, right? You should create an internal one and call it company name GPT. Right? My company's AILI, AI Leadership Institute. So AILI GPT. I also work for dream.org, Dream GPT. I also have a relationship with NPR GPT. Like I should have these internal GPT engines. And I say GPT in an analogous way, right? Like it can be any model, but a large language model so that I have room to play. It's not specialized, it's not customized. I could just ask it questions and get a feel for it. That's the number one thing companies need to do, is to create an innovative space to play. The second most important thing they need to do, though, is to ensure that once that playground occurs, that you start thinking about production. And that process means you need to figure out what use cases you should put in production. That's the next question. Which use cases do you use to get started? I'm going to quickly give you a rubric, 3 things to consider whenever you're evaluating these. And my time is almost out, so I'll be quick about it. But again, we're friends now, so you can connect with me. The first one is to understand the core values of your company or of your effort. What are you trying to do? And how will you measure that you're doing it successfully? Many times it's customer satisfaction as a measurement. Are they happy? Are they buying more? Is our revenue going up? Those are good indicators, but you must know why you're doing what you're doing. AI will amplify the core values of your organization, whether you are intentional about it or not. Once you've got those core values, the next thing is risk. How do you make sure that you are not doing something that might be perceived as risky to you, to your shareholders, to your board, to your stakeholders? Best thing to do is to have a conversation like, what are we most worried about? And then don't do those things first. You will do them, but don't do them first. Do them next. Identify those use cases that are lower hanging fruit because they're less risky. This usually means you're going to build AI systems to help people help people. So look at your contact center reps or agents, or look at your sales reps. How do you give them tools in order to actually do a better job? And then the final one, which is my maybe favorite, is figure out what's hard to do. Figure out what's hard and what's easy and go after easy. There are plenty of these use cases. I call it building a most remarkable product, not an MVP, not a viable product. There's lots of viability in GPT scenarios. Find one that's remarkable to your clients. One use case where if you build it, your clients are going to go, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Oh my gosh, I love using this. I want more. You only need one. I learned that at Alexa. We'd build one thing that was activated by your voice and everything would follow. Momentum would be generated. People would come and be like, oh my gosh, I love that one thing. When do we get the next thing? And that's what you want. In this world, you want to iterate fast, release fast, but intentionally, and don't release a lot. Release one thing at a time. Make sure your clients and your customers love it before you go on and do something else. Now, that being said, I wanted to share with you just a little bit. I'm going to cut it a little short so you can just see it. This is available on YouTube. You can go and take a look at it. It's also in the deck I'll share with you for joining today. But this is a new tool called AIR. And for those of you in marketing, this allows you to build an AI model that sounds like a human and let it do the selling for you. Let's take a quick look.
Oh,
Hey, James.
yeah, who's this?
Hey, James. It's Alexander from Tesla Motors. How's your day going so far?
It's going pretty good, my man. How about yourself? You said from Tesla, right? It's the car company?
Yeah, that's right. I'm calling from Tesla Motors, the car company. Did you have any trouble or questions while customizing your car on our website?
No, we're just kind of shopping around and, just taking a look.
So I'm going to stop it there just to give you a sense. What you're watching here is the ability for us to now create models. Now, what you'll notice is that we did not, now I say we, it doesn't have anything to do with me, but they chose not to disclose that they were a robot. They chose to let the user believe they were talking to a human. And this is where responsibility comes in, ethics comes in. Can you do that? Absolutely. Do whatever you want. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, we're not regulated to make that choice for you today. But as you use these tools, it's important for you to realize that trust with your customers are going to be paramount. And the best place to practice building trust is inside your own company with your own workforce. Build these tools internally. Let your employees be the testers of your tool. At the same time, you'll be educating them on how to leverage AI. They will be able to not only use it to test out products you're going to put into market, but they also will get better experience at doing this. In my final few minutes, I want to share with you one thing about what I do and my company, AI Leadership Institute. What we do is we help workforces. We do training, but we don't do typical training. We actually help organizations build what's called AI red teams. So I want to encourage you to do a little research, to maybe learn by doing, and think about like how much capability we now have with this technology, right? We can translate like we've never been able to before. We can create ideas. We can create images. We can generate assets, marketing assets. We can create content. We could do all of this. But as many of you know, with great power, maybe you know this one. If you know how this ends, maybe you could type it in the chat, right? With great power, maybe in the chat, we'll see it, comes great responsibility, right? Either Voltaire or Uncle Ben from Spider-Man, wherever your mind goes. We have an incredible moment right now to build systems that serve more people than we've ever been able to before. But it requires you to be intentional about that. It also requires you to be intentional about building trust with people. So when you do use AI to help them get what they need from you as a service provider, as a product provider, when you help them using AI, that they don't become afraid of it, that you are transparent, that you explain what you do, that you disclose. It's not bad to do these things. It's actually been shown in research at MIT. It's actually been shown to be quite beneficial. So AI red teaming is what my team does. We actually go in and train your organizations to build red teams yourself. You can't outsource red teaming. It has to come from within. It has to come from people who know the business. But knowing how to set up a red team, knowing how to create a way to avoid prompt injection and adversarial attacks, but also benign attacks, right? Attacks that are not actually attacks at all, but just a way a user might connect with you. Little bit of homework, go research the latest AI gone wrong story called Air Canada. Like just type in Air Canada chatbot or Air Canada court. They just had a very reasonable attempt at trying to help their clients do something that kind of backfired on them, but all because they didn't really understand the impact and importance of red teaming. Red teaming is a noun, or I'm sorry, is a verb, not a noun. It's something you do, not something you buy. So be aware there are tools to help red teams, but you need to really prioritize how are you going to build safe, responsible applications that serve your customers, serve your employees, basically get your vision of what you're trying to build into the world, but do it in a way that doesn't hurt anyone. And this is the way to do it. So I'm a big believer in learning by doing. Whoopsie. I'll send you the decks. You can watch my cool videos. But this QR code will take you to a hand-curated list of courses. Some of them I'm in, so okay. But most of them I'm not. They're all free, and they allow you to just learn enough about this to start building. Being a builder is a new skill that's necessary for anyone who's going to try and be innovative in this space. You don't have to be technical to be a builder. It just means you're willing to put your education, what you're learning all day today, you're going to take that education and put it to work to solve problems you care about. So I encourage you to do that. I'm so grateful for the team letting me be here. I took a couple minutes over, but thank you so much. And of course, I'm in the chat. Find me on LinkedIn. I am your friend. And I'm so grateful that they let me come and share a little bit of my story with you.
Thank you so much, Noelle. It was amazing. I'm here like, I don't know if you can see me, but I'm like cheering up, like super excited about it.
I love the
And it
chat.
was
You guys
amazing.
are awesome. Thanks for blowing it up for me. I really appreciate the support. It helps me stay excited. People always ask me, why are you so excited? I'm like, because people in the audience and people who are chatting, like, you're like, oh my gosh, yes, great responsibility. Yes. So I love it.
I was just screaming, Spider-Man.
Yes. So y'all are awesome. I'm so glad to be friends with you all. Thank you, SendPulse, for publishing my LinkedIn. Please connect. What are we doing in this world if not creating real friendships, real relationships, and doing this together? So thanks for having me.
Thank you, Noelle. See you soon. Bye-bye.